Hi, I'm Ghosty, and this video is being put out way later than it should have, but no biggie. I'm still putting up on the channel, and of course I'm talking about episode 3 of Moon Knight. I've been busy with my personal stuff, and just stuff going on, and I'm worrying about other things, as well as making stuff for the channel about other series and stuff like that, so I wasn't even able to watch it until now. It's the day before episode 4 comes out, but I haven't even watched episode 3 yet, so I'm going to do that now, and I'm going to get back to you. And then, of course, we'll talk about the episode, just like all the other Moon Knight videos so far. And, of course, spoilers for episode 3 of Moon Knight. Alright. What? Alright, well, to no surprise, it was a damn good episode. The whole show's been great so far, so I didn't expect any less. It was a good episode. Just a lot of freaky deaky shit going on in this. I liked it. This was the most ancient episode yet. This dived like fully into depth of the gods and the actual Egyptian roots behind them, like the deities, which also comes as no surprise because since last episode, at the end of it, we knew it was going to take place in Egypt, and it did. And a lot of shit went down, so let's talk about it. Firstly, I'm going to start off with what the episode talks about first, and that's Layla. We get more of her character and learn more about her character and her the lore with her, so that's pretty good. And her relationship between her and Mark, plus her and Steven, is branched out pretty well in this too, which I like. And also, before I keep repeating myself, I'm going to say it now, the conflict and relationship between Mark and Steven in this, and how they share the body in this, is amazing. I love this episode for that. Like, I love their chemistry, and even though it's the same actor, but how he does both, I guess, identities, both personalities, talking to each other, and how they transition from one another, like how they take over the body and exchange it to the other person, to the other identity, back and forth, was great in this. I really liked that a lot. But let's get on with it. And like I said, we are in Egypt for this episode, and Arthur Harrow, the antagonist, has the scarab, and they're all in Egypt now, and he's looking for the tomb. And he's pretty close to it. And Mark is tracking him down, but Harrow just does not give a shit, like, whatsoever, at all, really. But Mark's on the lookout for him, and he's trying to find him. And he's trying to get to Amun's tomb before Harrow does. Because, he's the antagonist. And he needed to stop Harrow from unleashing Ammit, another god that Harrow fully believes in, and Ammit's justice. Which is also wrong, and that's why Mark is trying to stop him. But you get the gist, especially if you've watched the show. And I think Harrow just doesn't care for the most part, because he thinks Khonshu is wrong, or Khonshu is going to mess up with something, and how he's using Mark, which I guess he wasn't wrong about later in the episode. Things go haywire for Khonshu, and if you're here, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because we've all seen the episode. But before we do reach that point, and before it's nighttime to begin with, it's daytime. And we do see the perspective of Mark Spector, like we expected. And Mark is awesome. Oscar Isaac is an amazing actor, and he really can pull off multiple characters at once, which is great. And his fighting paid off. It was good. Obviously better as Moon Knight and Mr. Knight, but we do get the fight scene between Mark just without even with the suit on, and it's pretty good. It's a good scene. And I'm not sure how that works, but he switches personalities while chasing these people because he can't find Harrow, and he needs to find Harrow in the tomb. So he finds these like goons, these followers, disciples, whatever you want to call them. But he does find them, and he tracks them down, and he follows them for a good amount of time now because he can't stop switching personalities. But it's not him, and it's not Steven, because while his personality is switching, Steven's saying it's not him, and you best believe it's not, because they end up dead. They're like the full-on murder. Like, he's covered in blood, and he has a knife. So it definitely wasn't Steven, but Mark is saying it wasn't him either, which is pretty interesting. I'm not sure how that is going to be, but that was pretty cool. It could just be Khonshu, but I'm not sure if they're going to do that, because that's not like a thing with the core character. But so be it. Whatever they're doing so far with it is going pretty well. But also, it gets dark too when he finds them out, and he actually does track them down. And like I said, they end up dead. One person doesn't, and they actually commit suicide. Like, they actually kill themselves praising Amit because they don't want to give out Harrow's position, which was like, oh shit, this is serious. But anyways, since that dude did kill himself, now there's absolutely no way that Mark can track down Harrow. And then Khonshu gets an idea and tells Mark about it, and that's where we delve deep into the pyramids, or like Steven said, it was the pyramids of Giza. I'm pretty sure he said, and we get this full-on setting inside of the pyramids from a secret entrance which appeared out of nowhere, out of thin air, which was pretty dope. But this whole thing comes alive, and we see Mark come into this temple, into this tomb, with a bunch of other avatars, which is sick. Because I'm not sure if that is a core comic thing about other avatars, like other gods of ancient Egypt, like Khonshu, actually having avatars, or just for the show. But regardless, it was cool. I expected to see some like Power Rangers shit, to be honest. I thought we were going to see some suits, like how the Moon Knight suit is, but it's not that way. but whatever it was, it was cool. It was a little freaky, but that's how it is. So no worries there, no complaints. And in this, we see Harrow, since he is the avatar of Amit, come forth, since Khonshu possessed Mark in this, and he's trying to tell the other gods that, well, yeah, all the avatars are possessed by their gods of who they work under, or who they serve. So the gods are talking through the avatars, and Khonshu is trying to bring up the idea that Harrow is trying to revive Amit from their tomb. Obviously, they don't believe him, like we saw in the episode, and they think Khonshu is just deceitful, because they already don't trust him because of past stuff. And later on, it was a sad scene. Well, if you like Khonshu, it's sad. Other than that, it was like, oh, damn. But whatever the case, Khonshu is imprisoned late in the episode. And then we get like a really intense scene and deep scene with Harrow talking to Khonshu while Khonshu's like imprisoned in stone in this like little statue. And then the episode ends. But while we're in this tomb and Khonshu has Mark possessed, that's what I was talking about how shit gets freaky. All the gods talking to each other through the avatars and Mark's voice. And that's what I meant by maybe the other personality was Khonshu, and maybe he just possesses Mark and takes control. But I don't really see any reason for that, because that's not really how it's supposed to be. Because in this context, it makes sense. In this scene, it makes sense, and there's a reason for it. But if it wasn't earlier, because it wasn't Mark or Steven, I don't know who it was. Unless they bring Jake Lockley into it, which I hope they do. But Jake Lockley was like a taxi driver in the comics, and that's just who Jake Lockley is. I didn't see him as, a full-on murderer, more ruthless than Mark so far. But whatever the case is, it was cool. And we do get that scene in the tombs, which is pretty cool. And it's very wild. The whole thing is unsettling, and it's all really just like bizarre. Also, just like that scene, the show is not afraid to go deeper into its roots and keep the tone that it's like trying to keep. It's like embraces it even, which is another thing to add and to praise about this show. But after that scene, all the avatars are possessed anymore. They're not possessed, and they're just avatars. And one of the avatars of the god of music and love, I think it was, actually helps Mark in his like endeavor, and does him a favor. She tells him that there is a way they can find out about the tomb of Amit, and that's through a sarcophagus, which I love, by the way. I love all the the dark and just morbid stuff about really in anything, but in ancient Egypt it's really cool. I like that whole idea, and just the sarcophagus was a cool item to add, I think, and help them. And it actually features a villain that I found out. I didn't know. I'm not going to act like I knew that before. I do know about Moon Knight. I did know about him, but not this villain. But Mogart in this episode, the one that has all the artifacts, and Moon Knight has to kill, which, by the way, yeah, he's dead, I'm pretty sure. We're probably not going to see him again. Hopefully we see him, because he's a villain, and it'd be cool if we get another costumed character in this, besides, Oscar Isaac's character, or, the 3-4 different characters he's playing. But there was a Mogart, the guy that was riding on a horse, is named Midnight Man, which is pretty cool. Just a little fun fact. But then we get to that scene with Mark and Layla trying to read this sarcophagus and trying to find out where the tomb of Amit is, which was also pretty cool. I want to point out the relationship between Mark and Steven in this, because this is really cool. I love how they interact with each other in this, because they both they need each other's help, and neither wants to admit it, and while also keeping like the crusade of Moon Knight and Mr. Knight alive, which is really cool, and being the avatar of Khonshu. The whole thing is written pretty well, in my opinion. I just like how they do it. But we get that scene, and then we get the scene afterwards from the trailers that before the show was even released of Moon Knight fighting all these goons and stuff. And then there's a scene where that Mogart character is chasing towards Layla, and Moon Knight is also doing the same thing. He obviously quickly saves Layla and kills or hits Mogart at the same time. And we get that scene, which is pretty cool. A good fight scene. And honestly, Moon Knight's getting pretty messed up here and there. Like, he's getting absolutely railed. But not like that. No, not like that at all. Not like that at all. But there actually are like rail, like spears going into him. And he's getting like fucked up. But it was a good scene. It's a good day's fight scene. And it ends pretty well too. And then if you've seen the episode, you know where it leads off to. After that whole fight, whatever, Moon Knight and Layla get up. They get the sarcophagus. They get what they need from it. And then again, another great moment between Steven and Mark that we get of them, knowing they needed to do, so they needed to work together while sharing the same body. It's an interesting concept, and they work it really well in the show, and I love how they do it. And since they do have that other personality, I don't know if it's Jake Lockley or not, but I wonder how that's going to come into play too. I'm really excited. But we're halfway into the show, so we still got 3 episodes to go after this. Actually, the 4th one comes up tomorrow, and I'm going to watch that tomorrow. After that, we see Stephen Grant take over and find out how to work the papers, how to work the message from the sarcophagus after Harrow destroyed it. Which, by the way, Arthur Harrow is somehow following Spectre literally everywhere. He's literally shows up everywhere. It's not a coincidence. It's like their fate. Oh, what a coincidence. It's like the gods put them there. I'm going to shut up. But after they get the message together, Steven puts the pieces together and does what he needs to do. And him and Layla talk about it, and it ends up being a constellation of the stars. But they have no way of doing it because the one who made it in the first place died years and years ago. Like thousands of years. I'm pretty sure they said 2,000. But there is one person or one thing, deity involved, that has seen this night. Because they see every night. They've seen every night since the beginning of time. And that is the moon god of Khonshu. And Steven puts his suit on. The Mr. Knight suit, of course. He puts that suit on, looking dapper as ever. And helps Khonshu with this, job that he's doing. Which is, it's even wonkier than the tomb scene. Which, it's still a good scene, and it still kind of makes sense. I mean, it's fiction. It's a comic book show. It doesn't really need to make too much sense. But in the sense of this, of how it's, dealing with gods and ancient history and things like that, and the whole thing with Moon Knight to begin with, it kind of makes sense. But they're turning back the night. They're turning the sky back all them years ago to the night of the person's death who made the map to Amit's tomb. And they end up getting it. It does work. But like I said earlier, Khonshu gets imprisoned and stoned for this. He gets imprisoned and stoned, and I'm not sure when we're going to see him again. He does tell Steven to, whenever he switches back to Mark, Khonshu tells Steven to tell Mark that he's in prison and he needs Mark to let him out. So we'll probably see that come up again. But overall, the episode was amazing. Again, I'm really excited to see what's next. I'm going to see it tomorrow. This upload is probably going up tomorrow anyways, the day of the 4th episode coming out. And then I'll make the 4th episode, thoughts a little bit later, or a little few days later maybe. But regardless, this episode was really good. I liked it a lot. A lot more bizarre than the other ones. Well, everything's been bizarre so far. We're dealing with gods. And the main character has a personality disorder. Or identity disorder. But regardless, it was a good episode. If you've gotten this far, I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much. Let me know what you think of the episode. And if you clicked on anything else or support me whatsoever, thank you. I really do appreciate it greatly. And thank you for watching. Go watch Moon Knight if you haven't. I don't know why you would be here if you haven't. But regardless, comment, like, subscribe, etc., etc. All that common YouTube stuff you hear everywhere else. This has been Ghosty, and thank you again. I bid you all farewell.